we're on fire. Our hearts are on fire for each other. We love each other. We want to show that love. Okay, so I want to be doing loving things for my wife, but there's always a stopping point to what I'm willing to do in the name of love, which is if what I'm calling to do for the sake of love too much violates my sense of my self-interest, I'm going to hit that stopping point. And since if we're most think of marriage as my life made better, it's about my life alongside another person's life. What covenant does is it joins these two lives. I also, as I enter covenant, I become different. Okay, so if I'm using my old sense of self-interest, what covenant teaches us is that old sense of self-interest is now outdated. That's the interest of a self that literally no longer exists. I have become a different person as I enter marriage. Now, I'm calling to love my wife. As it turns out, there is no stopping point for that. And the first thing we're called on to do is to love our wife as we love ourselves. The next thing, though, and what's the problem with that? I don't always love myself very well. Okay, so then
Sure.
God provides his definition of love for us, and then he shows us how to move from point A to point B, which is we now have to change how we think of ourselves, how we view ourselves, because we have become different. Our bond between my wife and I is now a very unique thing. She has become literally an extension of myself. So what I do for her, I literally am doing for myself. God makes it easy to love her like I love myself because in a real sense, she is myself. Okay, so we start there. And then we have to dismantle the old guidance system that pulls us away from doing that. And there's a step-by-step way to do that we cover in the book.
Dr. Mark Johnson joining us today here on the Meeting House on Faith Radio as we talk about covenant as applied to the institution of marriage that God has ordained. So as we continue to look at this notion of being in that one flesh relationship, as
Right.
the Bible describes it, a covenant with one another, marriage is more than just an agreement between two people. It's not
Yes.
an agreement. It's not a contract.
Yes.
Explain, if you would, the difference between the covenant relationship. You've touched on it already, but I wanted you to drill a little bit deeper for us between covenant and just a contract.
Okay, a contract is designed to stipulate behavior. A contract tells us what to do and to not do. A contract does not, there's no contract you could write that would cover all the things we would do to love another person or that could require that we love another person. Yet God does specifically that. He requires of us that we love him, heart, mind, soul, and strength, and that we love our neighbor as ourselves, and certainly our husband or wife. We love them fully and completely. So in order for that to happen, we can say we love, we can put it on our bumper sticker, we can wear clothing that extols the virtues of loving each other, but in terms of actually doing that, something about us needs to change at a very deep level. First, we need to actually be joined, because what separates people, again, is differing self-interests that head off in different directions, and those are real. But if you got separate people, a contract joins two separate entities together. You don't make a contract with yourself. In covenant, you now become a self. You become a family. You become something that is a real entity by joining together. Now, that family, the love that I would display for my wife within that should grow better and better and better over time. And the way we know we're not being loving is conflict. As our guidance system, what drives our behavior is off base, then we're going to run into each other in a conflict scenario. So most people view conflict as a really bad thing in marriage. Actually, it's a wonderful thing because that highlights the things within me that need to change. If they change, now I'm going to live in a more loving way. We're going to build a better relationship. Now, you repeat that process over and over again. My wife and I have been doing this now for the last 20 years. And if you repeat that process over and over and weed out one thing after another in our own guidance systems that are unloving, all of a sudden you got a marriage that's just like on fire. I love my wife much more deeply from the heart now, even than I did when we were falling in love for the first time. I mean, this is God's way of showing us how to build a loving relationship.